Hi, friends. I thought I would pop in today and just share how I finish up my Bible quilt pages after a retreat or conference. I posted a blog last week that showed my process going into a retreat, and I've had some questions about, well, how do you finish those pages up? What do you do with them? So, as I am finalizing that process for myself today, I thought I would just do a little show and tell to show it to you. Let me go ahead and focus in on my page over here so you can see it. So this is the one of the handouts that each participant received. I designed this with the title in mind and basically gave them some elements that they could color and some blank space that they could fill in with notes. And then on the back side, again, they had some elements to color, but I added some stitch lines so that they could come in here and just add those verses and get a page done fairly quickly. So I am adding this into a Happy Planner punch notebook that I have in progress. And what it does is it allows me to have flexibility of moving my pages around. You could use the same system with the 3-hole punch, but what I like about this is you just have multiple points of contact versus the 3 rings that often tear a little bit easier. So I hole punched the brochure that we had and some of the handouts in the order of events. And this is what my page looked like at the end of the retreat. So it went from this to this. And I did prep it a little bit ahead of time because I knew what our scripture passage was going to be. And I had some responsibilities and knew I wasn't going to have as much time to do that. So I knew that the session title include this word home. So I stamped a little house over here and added that. And then as the speaker shared her message, I just went through and I added some of the bullet points, and then I doodled in some little vines and stuff to add into that floral. So the next process is then coming in and shading into some of those quilt squares. Um, one of the things that she mentioned was this oaks of righteousness, and this happens to me quite a bit. That during a message, I will hear, oh, that topic. I have done a page on that before. And then when I go home, I will search for that. So I will show you what that process is for me. She mentioned this Oaks of Righteousness, and I know that I have a Bible quilt page on it. And because I tend to photograph my pages to be able to share with you guys, I was able to locate that page in the original journal, and I made a color copy of it. So what I am deciding to do is to add that. It's kind of a supplemental way to just enrich the experience that I had, the message that I heard by tying this in to a previous page. And by making a color copy, it's not changing my original journal at all. It's just reinforcing, hey, I've already done this. Let me just add to it. Depending on how much I have in my color cartridges and my printer, sometimes they'll turn out really clear, and then sometimes they're faded. And the beauty of that is even if they come out faded, that you can come along and then you can just add some more shading to your page. And then also, if there's something on your page that doesn't apply to what you want to use it for, you could use whiteout and kind of add some more stuff. I have been known to also just come back in with the same washi tape and go over it, and that way it just kind of adds some additional texture. So because it's fall and she was talking about oaks, I am pulling out some of my fall washi tape, and I've already had the flowers on there because our our topic was that. So I'm going to put this one that kind of goes in with that floral so it won't be too jarring, but then it's also going to tie in with the fall, just the fall vibe of the page. And I have learned with time that if you are going to copy your page, to leave some extra space around the border so that you can add washi tape and that will reinforce it to your page. So that's got the top border. And then let's see. Since we think of grass as being green, I'm going to add um, this washi that has more green in it on the bottom. Sometimes I'll just do the top and bottom and that's enough. But since I didn't trim the black off that side, I am probably going to come back and have to do that. So again, you can continue to do another swatch of that. There's some orange in there, and I have this kind of wavy orange. And I've got some orange up at the top. So I'm just going to add that down here. Okay. And then I'm just going to, oh, I got to check my other side. No. So the beauty of this Happy Planner punch system is you can take the pages out and then flip them over and see if I fold that over, it's going to cover up my words. So I'm just going to cut that off. If you have sharp scissors, I use these from Fisker. And you can just take that off. And then sometimes you can use that remnant somewhere else on your page. Other times you just throw it away. And then it's just really easy to put that, reinsert the page. Or you can just, that's why she does not want to let me go. You can just reinsert it there. Okay, and because this is dark on that side, I need a little bit of a darker side to it, which could be the falling leaves, or it could just be this floral. So I'm going to test it really quick and see. I probably should have trimmed that off, and then that way I could have, the original has this little brush of ink pad. I could have just done that again, and then it would have been more open. But anytime you add this, that kind of covers it up. Let me see if the leaf does it. Anytime you add the washi tape to all four sides, it just formats it as a border. Let's see. This is why I don't do very many process videos, because it's hard for me to talk and do at the same time. All right, I'm gonna do that. You can always use your scissors to cut out washi, or sometimes I just like the effect of leaving it a little rough and doing it with my fingernail. Okay, with this, I'm gonna kind of still use that as my tab. So I'm going to try to flip my washi underneath that. Sometimes it actually works. Okay, now here I am going to use my scissors because I've got extra coming off the page here. Okay, in some ways that looks really busy, and other ways I look at it and it frames the page. I think it's going to depend on um, kind of what my mode is at the time. But what I like about this is that it gives me that frame of reference that was mentioned in the message, and it ties in a previous page that I've done. And I think the more that we can interconnect those, just the richer it will be. It's a reminder that the oaks of righteousness was mentioned in Isaiah. And she was focusing in on how we can be oaks of righteousness as a peaceful presence in an unsettled world. And then to highlight that, I don't think I'm going to need to reference that page, but I am going to highlight it. Okay. So I already have some shading here and there. I think I might add some over here, and then I'll look at that next part. And you can see sometimes I'll shade in different colors. And then this is just doing little polka dots with the Papermate markers, which that's kind of a magical process in and of itself. Like it's just little bitty dots, but if you look at it then from behind, it somehow just fills it in a little gestalt. So since I have blue marker, I haven't introduced blue yet. It'll give me a little bit of a contrast. And the reason why I just do the outside of these quilt blocks is because sometimes the colors of markers I've used on the interior, um, it would look funny. It would somehow skew it. But visually, this just creates a border between one verse and another, or one concept. And then I'm going to look over here and decide, okay, is this because I've kind of connected these together? I want to go ahead and add in a little bit of blue. So then when I review my page, that will help tie it in together a little bit more. And this will just anchor those flowers a little bit. I am not a precise shader, so it's just basically just giving you a little softness on those quilt blocks. And then I'm going to highlight this word love. So since I did dots over here, I think I'm going to come back and do those same dots just to kind of balance that off. You may not be able to really see that on the video. Okay. And then at this point, if I'm not sure what to do, I don't do anything else, because then it might get too busy. The next time I review it, I might decide to add something more. But it's got quite a bit of color already going onto it. And I don't really want to add any lines in here, because this was her overview of some Old Testament background to this passage that she was talking about in John. Okay, so our second session was about cultivating a garden, and I did not have time to shade that in. So I have a little bit of yellow there. I'm going to go ahead and do yellow, because that should go over this brown and the pink of my title. And that just helps it pop a little bit. Whenever I have a space that's very linear and blank like that, that kind of gives me permission to introduce some washi tape. So then I will find a really narrow washi tape. This kind of has those fall colors on it. And this will help just to set that apart a little bit. I'm gonna add just a little bit down here. I think this just helps balance out the page if you use the same washi tape a few different places. Again, this is not an exact science. It's kind of an intuitive process, which sometimes makes it hard for me to explain it to other people. But that's part of the reason why I am doing this process along with you today. So now I'm going to go through and just add some shading again, just to differentiate some of these blocks. I don't want to color on my quilt, so that's my cheater if I go off. So anytime you're taking notes and you're just kind of scrawling it out, when you go back and you're reviewing, you may see that you have misspelled some things. And this gives you a chance to correct it. And it's just a wonderful way to review what message you've just received. Okay, I was about to shade this in yellow, but I have that yellow in the flower, so I'm just going to bring that yellow up here, and I know the yellow will go over that green, so I'm going to do the whole thing there. And then a lot of times I will doodle little hearts in, but not have time to shade them while I'm taking notes. So that gives me a chance to come back and fill in some of those. And then I'm going to add this because it's just highlighting abide is to remain in my love. And that's about the same color as I used originally. Sometimes it doesn't turn out that way. And then for plant, I'm just going to add green. I don't have green anywhere else yet, so I'm going to come down here where it's pruning, which is a definite gardening term, and just add some exterior shading to that quilt block. Okay, and then I have boxed some things in. That's another area that I will come back and decide, do I want to add some color to highlight that? Because obviously whenever I was taking notes, it had some additional emphasis. Sometimes I will use a contrasting color in the center if I'm not sure if that outer color is really going to go over the marker. Okay, and then we have this highlighted down here. So again, I'm going to start with the perimeter, see if that's enough. A lot of times that is. Sometimes then it looks funny because it's this one is so narrow. So now I'm deciding I'm just going to shade in the whole thing. And for some reason, I left those gaps whenever I was taking notes. So this also gives me a chance to come back. I've got purple in my washi and in some of my flowers, and I haven't really used too much. So this is a way just to tie in that purple. I had somebody ask me the other day at the retreat about how to decide on the color palette for a page. And I said, often, if you start with washi, then you can just focus on the colors that are in that washi. And that holds true pretty well for this particular page. That kind of incorporates part of the element that's already on the page. So I'm not sure if I want to color that in with blue or something else. So I've learned just to leave it for now, and I will come back and pretty it up later if I decide to do that. Um, so I've already got blue there. I was going to do blue, but I think I'm going to switch that back to green. I would have done yellow, except I have this yellow right over here. Because that's a strong color underneath, I can do the whole thing. And if I wanted to, I could come back with my orange and finish out that little cloud. And then I still have this that says his friend, and I want to highlight that. So I think I'm going to go with pink. Then I'm going to add a little pink here. Okay, and again, I'm looking at it, it looks like there's a lot going on, so at this point, I'm going to stop on that page. So that was the note-taking page, which was a little bit of a free-for-all. This was one of the pages that I did ahead of time that was basically Bible quilting directly from this passage of John 14. And that gave me an instant reference as she was talking about it. And I kind of like it how it is. So for now, I'm just gonna leave that. Another session was on the true vine. And I did this ahead of time and basically was just summarizing this passage. I said summarizing, it was word for word out of the Bible. There may be times that I use an ellipsis, that little dot, 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 um, for space issues if I needed to not put all the words in. So for this, I'm just going to a little bit willy-nilly add some color. That's dark enough. I'm going to do the whole thing. Because another thing is you may want to shade passages that are really highlighting what the message was. And this was about bearing fruit. And I've got that big sticker. So it's a way just to kind of, if you're reviewing, it just pulls you right into that. Okay. And I already have quite a few stickers and stuff going on there. So again, I'm gonna stop before I make it too busy. And then you've already seen the oaks. This was the last session. It was about cultivating a peaceful process. So I am up, I've got orange there. So sometimes I do that. I don't pay close enough attention and I use the same color. But what's the beauty of this is I can come back with just a little bit of a deeper color and go over that. Since this was all about peace, I am going to highlight those terms as they show up on this page. I don't think the green's going to go well over that, so I'm just going to add in that little bit of yellow. That helps blend it in. Okay, again, here's a space that has plenty of room for a little bit of washi. And using some of my fall washi, I have this that's fairly narrow that has leaves. if I can find where it starts. If I don't, I'll switch to another washi. Oh my goodness. Sometimes that's just how it goes. There we go. And I've got another little spot down here. Okay, since this is a continuation, I'm going to add this color up here. And even go back and grab it from over on this side. And then this we can add some stitching. That just helps to find the border a little bit. Okay, we're about to run out of time, so I'm going to show you my grand finale. I don't do this with a lot of pages, but it was a retreat that my church hosted. So I was part of the planning and took a lot of pictures. We had a photo booth. So what I'm going to do, I have the speaker here and I introduced her to Bible quilting. I'm putting this one in because I want to remember that she started with that vine and branches template. And that gives me a way to pray for her as she continues her Bible quilt journey. I'm going to use the space around there to write down some of the things that I learned about her that I can be praying over. And I'm not going to write those in now for privacy's sake. This is our women's care team that helped plan it. And then this is a group photo that, again, I thought that this would provide me with a way to have a visual reminder of who was there. And it will remind me to pray over these women specifically with the message that we all received. Just another way to personalize our prayers a little bit. And I've already got that floral on the bottom, so I think I'm just going to come back with this neutral. So it's not taking away from the washi or the picture. And it's narrow enough. I think I'm just going to do it along both. And I'm taking it all the way to the page. This also is going to help that picture stay in place. We live in a land of humidity, and sometimes the humidity does not play nicely with our pictures. I described Bible quilting as scripture scrapbooking the other day to somebody. So this would be an excellent example of that, where you can incorporate photos or other scrapbook materials into it. And I will probably add a verse in here. I already used some of my washi and wrote in a reminder of that. And then it's just a matter of kind of finalizing the borders. You guys probably have seen me do this before. This is just a hatch mark process. And you can tell I'm just kind of winging it. But I really like how it just uses up a space well, and it's just kind of a soft finish that's not too fussy. You don't have to be too exact. I usually try to at least line up my diagonals a little bit. They're not even the same width apart. but then that draws the eye into the photo rather than anything I've done to it. And then we can add, oops, I've got that same color, so I'm gonna switcheroo it. I've got a lot of blue background in that photo, so that's what I'm gonna do. The simple stitch line I use a lot. Okay, so again, I'm probably gonna put the title, the theme word flourishing up here, add in some little prayer request bullets along her picture, and then call it good. And this will be a great way that I will be able to remember the retreat and the people that attended it. And I will have this message in my journal that I can go back and refer to, especially if I decide that I'm going to Bible quilt through the whole book of John, or maybe our pastor does a sermon series on John. I think anytime we can go back to previous material and incorporate it in some way with um, the current message, it just deepens our understanding of that particular text in the Bible. So I hope this process was helpful to you. And like my little pumpkin and I, will just encourage you to flourish in the word. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comments below. Okay. Have a blessed day.